Hi everyone, and welcome back to my Meeple series. So today I'm going to basically just rework everything with this new library I found called Pygame. You might have recalled from my last video that I was having severe frame rate issues. So I looked up some libraries that might have been able to help me with the frame rate issues. It led me here. I found this library called Pygame. And this library is basically for making games, so it'll have more collision handling and handles frame rates better. So normally what I do when I find a new library is I just kind of play around with it and figure out how it works. So here I'm just going to follow some of the tutorials I found on that website, and that will be linked in the description below. So the way that this library works is that you've got different surfaces and you need a primary surface to be able to display anything. And the surface contains basically just the thing that the user is going to look at while the game is running. So to start off with, I'm going to just make a 100 by 100 pixel square that is white. And to be on the safe side, I am going to actually put in the RGB value for that fill. Following along with the tutorial still, I added a caption. This adds the title to the window when I start up the game. Next, I'm going to add the loop that will actually render each of the frames, and I'm just going to try to do it forever until I cancel the program. In the tutorial, it also had this thing where if the Pygame event that happens equals quit, which is usually like you hit the X button, then it switched a Boolean variable from true to false. That would stop the loop. In this case, I'm just going to try breaking the loop because that should do the same thing. I also initiated a clock there that will control how often the frames are updated. I'm also going to declare some color variables here just to make it easier for me to test out with different colors. So I'm going to set the fill to white there so I know exactly what it is, even though I know what the RGB value of white is. Now for every loop, I'm going to set the fill to white. This will reset everything so I can draw the new placement on top of it. This is the same way that I did the background when I was using PYQT. Now, this is a function that I don't actually really understand what it does. I should probably, but I'm still kind of experimenting with this library. The clock.tick is how it controls the frame rate between each loop. I'm also going to make sure that if the loop breaks, I close the instance of Pygame. So I'm just going to do pygame.quit. And I think I did that wrong. Let me try this again. Okay, I'm going to meet the tutorial halfway and add a variable that carries true or false for the while looped process. Now let's see what this makes. It's a white square. Cool. That's what I expected. Now that we got something showing up, how about we make the square bigger and let's add some more colors to this. So I'm just going to do red, green, and blue because those are pretty easy to make in RGB. And I don't remember how to make yellow in RGB off the top of my head. So I'm going to go back down to our loop, and every iteration I'm just going to draw a rectangle, and this will be on the screen that we have. The color will be red, and let me just throw this somewhere. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then the stroke will be 0. Okay, that's a rectangle. Good, works out. Okay, now let's start actually just throwing this into our old code. So I did a little bit of reworking, and I'm down here at my draw function, and I'm just going to do a similar thing where I draw on the parent surface. So the game board will itself have a Pygame surface attached to it so that all of its children, all the Meeple obstacles and stuff, will be able to draw on the same thing. I'm just going to draw it on that surface, use its own color, and I'm going to draw it at its position, and just assuming that the center is its position, the center of the circle is its position. Okay, that looks pretty good. Just thinking here, what else do we need to do? Oh, we probably need to get rid of all of that because we're just testing it out to make sure that we can actually draw the meeple. And we don't need the pixel stuff anymore because we're not using pill anymore. Let's go ahead and add that surface to the game board so that it doesn't yell at us when we try to actually run the code. And we're just going to set the surface to its height and width. So we're already keeping those properties, and we're going to run it when it initializes. And for the adding a meeple, we're just going to pick a random color in a list, but since it doesn't actually use named colors like that, we're just going to pass in the RGB values as tuples. And what else do we need to do here? How about we change the width and height just so that we have something different going on? And we need to reinitialize the array of meeple because that's the only way that it will know that it has meeple and how we'll iterate over them. And let's go ahead and set the surface to being white background. And on every draw, we're going to do the same code that we did in our experiment. So let's go back there and let's reapply the update function. And on every update, we're just going to set the clock to 60 ticks, and we're going to do that pie display flip. Still not sure what it does, but we do need it in every loop. So I'm also going to initialize the clock as a component of the game board. This will ensure that I can actually access it in every loop. And I'm also going to set a background color just so that it's easier to call that, and if I wanted to change the background color later, I didn't have to hunt it down through all of the functions. So on every update, we're going to draw, and we're also going to fill the surface with our background color. I probably should have moved that to the draw function, but it will be fine in the update. So I'm also going to initialize Pygame in the initial function for our game board. Actually, I'm just going to take everything from our experiment and slap it in there so that I know everything will work. Okay, just rearranging some stuff here, and let's see what happens. Oh right, I still have some PYQT stuff lying around, so let's comment that out and just get rid of all that simulation stuff and replace that with the game board. Well, you never want to see that circle, okay? Couple of reworks later, and I think I know what the problem is. Let's try this. Still got that loading circle of doom, so there must be something wrong with my update function somewhere. Let's see. What if I change this and okay, that's loading fine. So what's the difference between my experiment and my actual application? So for the heck of it, I'm just going to get rid of that background there because we don't need it anymore. And I'm going to get rid of all this other PYQT stuff. Oh, maybe it was the application. Let's see if that actually fixes everything. Cool, now that we're not getting that circle of death, let's move on. So I'm going to add that carry on variable And I'm going to do the same loop that I did in the experiments in my run. And when it hits quit, so I'm going to switch that carry on to false. And just going to set it so that while is related to the carry on. Looks good. Okay. Now I'm going to figure out why these circles aren't actually appearing as circles. So after some research, I found out that the shape is actually related to the top left corner and the width and the height, not the top left and bottom right. So I'm just going to go ahead and switch my calculations here. And just going to change that for the draw, and voila, we have a circle. So I think this is a good stopping point for now. In the next part, I'm going to catch up to the circles actually moving. Hope you all have a nice week, and good luck out there.